Hi guys, Stephanie Smith here. Thanks for joining me. Coming back to you guys today to discuss another culprit that tends to get in our way when we talk about our personal growth. And that culprit is fear. And so today I want to talk to you guys about understanding what is your fear factor. And when I say fear, guys, that can mean fear, or fear can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But when I say fear, I'm not talking about being afraid of roller coasters, being afraid of heights, being afraid to drive over bridges in a car, right? I'm not talking about that fear. What I'm talking about is fear that keeps us from making change in our life. Fear that's hidden deep inside us, that's keeping us from making the right decisions when we know what the right decision is, right? It's the fear deep inside us. It's alive, it's well, and we need to recognize, it's important for us to recognize in our life, because it's different for all of us, right? And we all have it. Whether we want to admit it or not, we all have fear of something in our life. And the faster that we recognize what that fear is and we deal with it, and when I say deal with it, sometimes we don't have to do anything, but be aware that it's there so that when we're in situations where it's present, we can handle the situation easier. And sometimes when we're aware of the fear, we can face it head on and we can decide to do something about it. So how we handle fear is always dependent on us first recognizing what it is. And that's what I want you guys to do today. That's what I want you to start thinking about today is how does fear show up in your life? And when you think about, and most specifically, what I'm going to talk about is how does fear show up in your life as far as your work or your career? Does it look like you don't ask questions in meetings because you're afraid you won't look as smart as everybody else in the room? Are you afraid not to apply for that job because you don't want to be compared to the other applicants? Are you afraid to not leave the job where you're at because you're afraid of change and you're comfortable where you are right now? Are you just afraid of taking on something new so you won't sign up for those new projects because you're just afraid of that you won't understand it? So when we think about fear and you think about your work and your career, what are the things that are holding you back? So have you ever asked yourself this question? What would you do if you weren't afraid? What would you do if you weren't afraid? Have you ever answered that question? If you weren't afraid of something in your life, in your career, in your work life, if you weren't afraid, what would it look like? I'd be willing to bet it probably looks a lot different than what your life is right now. It probably looks a lot different. And in Brené Brown's book, Daring Greatly, she asks people to fill in this blank. And this may help you get to your fear, because as we continue on our journey of self-awareness and we continue to identify how these culprits have taken up residence in our life, right? Being aware is difficult sometimes. It's difficult to start dissecting ourselves to understand what's underneath everything. And so sometimes when we ask ourselves questions and we think about them and we try to answer them, that helps us get to the root of where everything is. And so in her book, she asked people to fill in this blank. Never blank enough. Never blank enough. And so let me give you some of the examples that she received. Some of the examples were never good enough, never perfect enough, never powerful enough, never successful enough, never smart enough, never safe enough, Okay, see where she's going with this, right? It's that middle word, that never blank, that blank enough. That sometimes helps us get to our fear, right? That helps us identify where our thoughts are, right? And so the first step, right, with our fear is just being honest about them. Recognizing what they are and being honest about them. No, we have to know them and accept them. If we want to do something about it, if we want to have personal growth, if we want to be more successful, if we want to go places in life, right? We have to understand what our fear is. We have to know it and accept it, right? If you continue to fight it, you're going to continue to let it control your life, and you're going to continue to make decisions that your fear is controlling. So after you know what those fears are, after you've come to know them and accept them, you have to determine, where's the fear coming from? Is it based on facts in your situation? You know, there might be factual things that are going on that you have identified, your body, your mind has identified a fear for this. Or is it just hardwired in the way you think? Has some event or something happened in your life, right, that has put that thought in your mind, and it's just there and it's stuck? And you never want to go back to that event, or you never want to go back to that feeling again. So that fear is helping you block and protect yourself from feeling that way again. Okay? It's important that we recognize not only what it is, but the why. And this is not something that's going to happen overnight, guys. We're not going to go through this fear series this week and you're going to be all good, ready to go on to the next thing. These are things that we continue to work on, but as we become more aware, we can make better decisions, and this helps let us move forward with our personal growth rather than keep us in the same spot. So identify, you might have a favorite go-to that regardless of the situation or the facts, it's your go-to. We have to recognize it, and then we have to watch for it to creep up, right? The first step is in starting to change and starting that personal growth, getting over that fear, and maybe stepping out, starting something new that you never, ever thought that you could do. So guys, I want you to think about, what is your fear factor? What is your fear factor? Roller coasters don't count. Bridges don't count. Airplanes don't count. What is your fear factor deep inside of you that is keeping you from making that next step, making that change, starting your own business, growing your business, hiring that first employee, right? Applying for that job, speaking up in meetings. What is that fear that keeps you right where you're at, in the chair that you're at? I want you to think about that. Start to identify it. Start to know it. Start to watch for it. And watch what happens with your personal growth when you understand what your fear factor is. Guys, I appreciate your time. Thanks for joining me. I hope this was helpful. Feel free to like, comment, and share, because as we already discussed, everybody has fear. Until next time, go make it a great day. Thanks, guys.